Hey y'all, it's Radiant. This is Radiant Virtue Ministries. We are in the book of Esther. We're heading into chapter 3. We've done 1 and 2. Go back and watch those videos if you have not already. Feel free to give this a like and a thumbs up. If you haven't, share it with your friends if you're going along with scripture. I have a few Bibles out in front of me in case you don't have yours on hand. No worries. I'm going to read through scripture, and I'm also going to be breaking it down with a few little tidbits of what makes the passages unique, and because I want you to be learning along with me as I continue to grow in my journey. So chapter 3, I'm going to be reading out of the ESV version today, though I do have a King James here. So, and that was my whole reading plan that just flew out of my Bible. But chapter 3, this is obviously after the book of Nehemiah, before the book of Job, is Esther. God is not mentioned one time. We've said that, and yet his hand, he just beautifully orchestrates the story so much, and there's a lot of justice that happens throughout the pages of the book of Esther. It's short and sweet. I'm not going to waste any more time. We're going to jump right in and introduce you to a guy named Haman. All right, chapter 3 says this. After these things, King Xerxes promoted Haman the Agagite, the son of Hammedatha, and advanced him and set his throne above all the officials who were with him. And all the king's servants who were at the king's gate bowed down and paid homage to Haman, for the king had so commanded concerning him. But Mordecai did not bow down or pay homage. Okay, so Haman is a big deal. Obviously, we know that if he is being revered at this level where everybody has to respect him as if he's kind of like a little king, he is a big deal. And yet the peculiar thing about Haman, I find, is that he is not Persian like the king and the province that he's in. In fact, he's an Agagite. So Agagites, if you know the scripture and you've read the Old Testament thoroughly, you know that they are a part of the Canaanites. And what do we know about Canaanites and how God likes to deal with them? They're deeply pagan, and God is pretty harsh with them in these earlier pages, right? So we have an Agagite who is representing the crown and the king. Everybody's supposed to bow down and worship him, basically. And yet Mordecai, the Jew, is not down for that. One, that is, again, it's not kosher for him, basically. Let's find out why. So it says, and why then the king's servants who were at the king's gate said to Mordecai, why do you transgress the king's command? And when they spoke to him day after day, and he would not listen to them, they told Haman in order to see whether Mordecai's words would stand. For he had told them that he was a Jew. And when Haman saw that Mordecai did not bow down or pay homage to him, Haman was filled with fury. But he disdained to lay hands on Mordecai alone. So as they had made known to him the people of Mordecai, Haman sought to destroy all the Jews, the people of Mordecai, throughout the whole kingdom of Xerxes. There's something bigger happening here. All right, so we have an Agagite, Haman, who is really mad about the disrespect of Mordecai, a Jew. Now, why is this? Well, we know historians say that they are out of, Mordecai is a Benjamite who comes out of, who else was a Benjamite? Earlier pages, the first king of Israel. That's right, King Saul was a Benjamite. And if you remember what the downfall of King Saul was, there was a number of moral failings and just character flaws within Saul, but he was really handpicked and selected by God to be this great king and ruler, and yet he disobeyed God by showing mercy on the Canaanite women, or not Canaanite, but the Agagite women and children when he was supposed to have slayed all of them. You know, God's like, did you leave them living? And he says, yes. And that was that was not what God wanted. He wanted them slain because they were disobedient by their pagan practices and them not revering and worshiping the sovereign Lord of Israel. So we have a Benjamite tribe. Both these guys know their history. So when they see that that's an Agagite, not a Persian, and he finds out that they're Jewish, he remembers that there was a lot of beef going on between these two. And that basically Saul was responsible for killing all of the Agagites at the time. And yet Mordecai is like, yeah, but our king, the Benjamite out of my tribe, also paid dearly for that as well, because out of that whole debacle, that is where King David got prompted after Saul fell from grace. So there's a lot happening here, but it's so much so that Haman has decided, I don't want just Mordecai dead. I want them all. I want every single person being ruled by King Xerxes, the man that he has the ear of, clearly, if he is put in this position, and I want to take them out. Okay, so let's continue on. In the first month, which is the month of Nisan, this is on the biblical calendar, Hebrew calendar, in the 12th year of King Xerxes, they cast pur, which is like casting lots or dice, as we would call it. before Haman day after day. And they cast it month after month till the 12th month, which is the month of Adar. Then Haman said to King Xerxes, there is a certain people scattered abroad and dispersed among the peoples in all the provinces of your kingdom. Their laws are different from those of every people, and they do not keep the king's laws. For they keep the laws so that it is not to the king's profit to tolerate them. So basically, like, we don't need to deal with these people. They are not revering you, and they're not respecting you, and they don't listen to your laws. Well, why is that? That's because they serve a different kingdom. They serve the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Okay, but he's bringing it to their attention, to the king. If it please the king, let it be decreed that they be destroyed, and I will pay 10,000 talents of silver into the hands of those who have charge of the king's business, that they may put it into the king's treasuries. So the king took his signet ring from his hand and gave it to Haman the Agagite, the son of Hammedatha, the enemy of the Jews. And the king said to Haman, the money is given to you, the people also, to do with them as it seemed good to you. I don't want to be the arch enemy of this guy who's been given a lot of power and moolah at the same time. He's very politically motivated to take these people out, but he didn't need that. He wanted it done anyways, but now he's got the king's permission because he's a king's guy. So verse 12, it says, then the king's scribes were summoned on the 13th day of the first month, and an edict, according to all that Haman commanded, was written to the king's satraps and to the governors of over all the provinces and to the officials of all the peoples, to every province in its own script and every people in its own language. This is a really strong communications department, okay? That's what I do for a living. Get out information to people, and I will tell you, it takes time to transcribe and transliterate different documents, things, but they had clearly had a very strong way of doing this, and I imagine it was very organized. Everything royally at this level is done pretty well. It was written in the name of King Xerxes and sealed with the king's signet ring. So these edicts go out. Letters were sent by couriers to all the king's provinces with instructions to destroy, to kill, and to annihilate all Jews, young and old, women and children, in one day, the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month of Adar, and to plunder their goods. A copy of the document was to be issued as a decree in every province by proclamation to all the peoples to be ready for that day. The couriers went out hurriedly by order of the king, and the decree was issued in Susa, the citadel, modern day Iran. And the king and Haman sat down to drink, but the city of Susa was thrown into confusion. Talk about mayhem. One thing we know is King Xerxes likes happy hour, okay? He likes happy hour with his people. We just saw him do 180-day feast, and then he did that last 7 days before they decided to get a new queen. And so here he has, I don't know, I just see him like cheersing Haman and being like, yeah, it's like totally a great idea. And he doesn't even realize he's been played by Haman to get what Haman wants, which is all the Jews to be obliterated out of the land, and that's a lot of Jews that are going to be killed. And so they're over here having the time of their life, drinking pina coladas over this good decision, and yet the land is like going into a frenzy. I mean, these are their neighbors, their children, their families that are going to be murdered, taken out, and there's one day to do it, and people are getting money. They are being like they're paid to eradicate these people, and they're also going to lose everything and get all their goods. So this is pretty extreme behavior. So I'm going to leave it there because we're going to continue on in chapter 4. But the one thing that sticks out to me is just how, even though we don't realize how God's justice works, like this is something that comes to head this is like the sins of a former king of Israel, basically, because he disobeyed God. That is why Haman is so mad. I mean, really, because all his people got slain. And so there is a history here. We're going to see how God, balances the scales, which he always does. He always shows up on time in his own way, but that doesn't mean that in the process, there aren't people who are terrified. I wonder who had a heart attack at the thought of this news. Seriously, right? Some people don't make it to D-Day. They die right on the spot from that level of stress. Imagine being a new mom with children, just the idea of just for being who you you're getting taken out like that. And unfortunately, that still happens today all around the world through genocide. So it's heartbreaking, it's wrong, and yet there are times where the Lord has commanded to do such things to certain people out of their disobedience. So it just seems like all of a sudden the tables are turned and Haman has the power to say, we'll take you out. And so that is where things stand. So we'll see where this goes as we continue on. So stick around. This is Radiant Virtue Ministries. Give this video a like, thumbs up. I want to hear from you in the comments. Please engage with me, guys. I miss you. I love hearing from you. And stay tuned for chapter 4. I'll talk to you soon.